Hello, lovely. Hi, Anissa. Hi, Tanya. As you're jumping on tonight, I would love it if you wouldn't mind dropping in the comments just how the last few days have gone for you, maybe what you're feeling or what you're hoping. I think one of the ways we can share community as we jump onto these online classes where we're not able to chat before and after is to really utilize this space and this chat here to just kind of drop a line and say hi to your classmates. If you're just joining us and you'd like to drop a little note or message letting the rest of the group know how you're doing, or if there's anything special that you'd like to work on tonight too, this would be a great time to do that. Oh, it's good. Tanya's saying that she's doing so much better. Removing Facebook from your phone. I actually was thinking about doing the same thing this week because I find myself just kind of like moving from one article to the next and getting in that pattern of that needing to know. Chanel and I, oh, hi guys. You're feeling hopeful. This week's not going so well. I know that with some of the new announcements too about schools possibly that we're gonna get, that some people are feeling very conflicted about that too, wanting their kids to be safe, but also just knowing that that's really gonna be a disruptive time for us here in the next while. Hi, Kelly. Just gonna give one more minute for anyone else that is jumping on. We are going to use tonight some pillows, a blanket, if that feels good for you. If you've got a couple blocks lying around and you prefer blocks over pillows, that might be a good thing too. I see Tracy's here, a high school teacher, stressed about work and my kids here at home. Absolutely. I did a training yesterday with Yoga Alliance, and it was on yoga and the mental health response during this pandemic. So hopefully I picked up a few things that we can incorporate tonight as we kind of let go a little bit. So we will go ahead and start. If anyone has any questions or anything and you want to jump on or comment or even just do a shout out to any of your friends that are on here too, please feel free to do so. This will be recorded after and I'll post it, so if you need it again this week you can, and I'll also be back on Sunday, so if you've got any private requests or special things that you'd like to work on, you can shoot me a message too. We can make sure that we cover those things. So we will start tonight lying on our back, maybe finding an extra comfortable space, so maybe putting a blanket under your head, a couple of pillows under your knees. Finding a space that works for you as we settle in. Really taking time for our practice tonight to focus on grounding. To focus on the difference between thinking thoughts and running away with our thoughts. Settling into your mat. apex of your body, really grounded in. Imagining yourself melting into that space, becoming heavy like lead, feeling where the skin, the weight of the legs maybe touch the floor, the back of the hands. Feeling that weight in the back of the head and where that's heavy, either on that blanket or on the floor. Closing the eyes here. We'll work on the spinal breath. So in that place of the root chakra, down at the tailbone, the base of the spine, imagining a ball of light pulled into that space. As you inhale, that light starts to travel up the spine, through the mid-back, through the shoulder blades, the base of the neck, filling that head space with all of that light. On the exhales, it drains down, so out of that space in the head, through the neck and the back, through the low back, pulling again at the base of the spine. So with your own breath here, trying to slow down, paying attention, tracing that outline up and down the spine. Watching that light come and go. Ebb and flow. Understanding and realizing that what we focus on grows. Focusing on that light, traveling up from the tailbone, all the way to fill that headspace. Exhaling, watching it flow out. Each time you take this breath and you reach that exhale at the bottom where all of that light is pooled in the base of the spine, imagine feeling that rooted deep into the floor, heavy, weighted. Taking a few more breaths. Each time feeling yourself more and more rooted, more and more grounded, more and more present. Following your thoughts, but not running away with them. This last time we take that inhale, tracing that ball of light up from the spine, all the way through the mid-back, up into that head space. Allowing it to trail all the way back down in reverse. We'll go ahead here and start to wake our body just a bit. Allowing ourselves, I lost my music, give me just a second. sometimes things act in our favor, and we just need to be quiet tonight, I guess. So as you start to wake the body, gently wiggling the fingers and the toes. If you're on props, maybe starting to move those pillows out from under the knees, moving the blanket out from behind the head. When you're ready, bringing those knees up into the chest, giving them a nice rock side to side. Maybe taking those knees up to the ceiling, drawing some circles in one direction. And then the other. We'll go ahead and keep this right knee held tight into the chest. Taking this left leg up towards the sky, taking that foot up nice and tall, pointing and flexing the toes. Pointing those toes and maybe drawing some tiny circles on the ceiling in one direction, then the other. We're going to let this left foot plant to the floor. We're still holding that right knee in. We're working towards a quad stretch here. So this left knee will fall out towards the left. We're still holding that right knee nice and tight. We'll take that left foot and start to walk it over towards that right hip. You'll start to feel a stretch across the top of the leg in that space of the quad. You can hold it here, really allowing this left knee to let go and come towards the earth. If you like, you can keep your grasp on that right knee with the left hand and try to bind by maybe taking that right hand and grab for that foot. Or maybe your quad is having enough stretch just where it's at, and that's fine too. Relaxing here. Finding that breath. Finding a way to be at peace with the quiet, with the stillness. Focusing on that breath. When you're ready, we'll release this left leg, bringing it back up, knees to chest, rocking side to side. We'll keep this left knee hugged in tight. This right leg will come long, toes pointed up towards the ceiling, pointing and flexing. Maybe drawing tiny circles in one direction. And then the other. When you're ready, this right foot will come to plant on the earth. That right knee will fall open to the right side. We're still hugging this left knee in towards the chest. When you're ready, we'll start taking that right foot, walking it towards that left hip, letting that right knee drop. Really finding some length in that quad on the right side, that top of the leg. Deciding here to stay still, or maybe take the left hand, trying to reach for those right toes. Taking this bind on the floor. Again, finding stillness here, breathing. Maybe, if the silence is uncomfortable, coming back to that lighted breath, that spinal breath. Tracing that ball of light from the tailbone all the way up through the neck into the head space. Exhaling, watching it flow out. When you're ready, we will release that bind if you've got it. Starting to wiggle that right foot back towards center, pulling both knees back up into the chest. Rocking side to side. Maybe finding some circles with those knees. Massaging that lower back, that space of our tailbone where we know how to ground in. We'll let our feet both come to the floor here. Letting the knees fall together, walking those feet out towards the edges of the mat, the long edges. So we're going side to side here. Letting the knees fall in together, placing the hands on the belly, maybe feeling that breath rise and fall. Closing the eyes. Noticing that point at the top and bottom of the breath where everything is still. Maybe taking a regular breath. Maybe finding that spinal breath, that ball of light floating up and down the spine. Letting those feet walk together so that the feet come to touch, letting the knees come out wide into this reclined butterfly, reclined cobblers pose. Taking those hands out to the side now in these cactus arms, goalpost arms. Resting on the back of the head. Feeling the strength here in that root chakra, that space where the tailbone meets the earth. This reclined goddess pose. This always feels like a very powerful space. For me, a healing space. So maybe noticing what it brings up for you. Taking a couple more breaths in this space. When you're ready, we'll gently lift those knees back together. Bringing the knees back into the chest. We are going to come up to a seat, but go ahead and take a few rocks back and forth, massaging that spine before coming all the way back up to a full seat. So rocking back and forth, giving yourself time and space to find yourself. When you're up in this comfortable seat, if you'd like, you can sit on a pillow or a blanket or a block, something to lift the hips up just a little bit if seated is not a comfortable place for you to be. We're taking a couple of side bends first. So inhaling, that left arm will come up nice and tall. This right hand plants into the earth, looking up towards that left hand first, and then tipping over to this right side. Allowing that bend to really come in through that right arm, stretching out that left side. Your left hip is glued to the floor. So if you'd like a little more stretch, you can walk that right hand out a little bit. You can come down to the forearm if it's available. We really want to open here through the heart. Imagine that beacon of light sort of shining out from that heart space up towards the ceiling, through the phone and maybe to your friends who are off taking this class right now too. On the way up, we'll leave this left arm overhead, taking the left ear to the left shoulder, allowing that left hand to just rest on the side of the face here. Getting a nice stretch into that right neck space. This right hand can stay where it's at. It can walk out, or you can lift your seat, tuck that hand right underneath, and allow it to pull down a little bit more on the forearm, moving that stretch just a little further down the arm. Breathing here, releasing that hand. Other side, that right arm will come up nice and tall, up overhead. That left hand is planted on the floor, finding some length, looking up here, and then tipping over to the left side. Same rules apply. Keeping that arm up, looking underneath, up towards the ceiling. Feeling that space in the heart shine out. Remember, it's your superpower. Use it to spread that light. On your way up, we leave that hand overhead, taking the right ear towards the right shoulder, placing that right hand on the side of the face, not pulling here, just allowing the weight of the hand to put a little pressure on the neck if that's safe and comfortable for you. Again, this left hand, fingers can stay where they're at. They can walk out, or what I like to do is lift my seat. Sit on that hand and allow that stretch to go even just a little bit further down my arm. Closing the eyes here. Feeling yourself rooted, feeling yourself present. Finding yourself in your breath. When you're ready, we'll release the arm, release the hand, maybe taking those arms out wide, looking up to the ceiling, bringing them around front, curling everything in like you're holding a beach ball. Opening wide again, stretching, pulling that chest forward, looking up towards the sky. Crunching everything in, like you're holding a beach ball, tucking the chin. One more time. This movement to me feels like this beautiful dichotomy that we live in right now, curling everything in, where we feel open sometimes, we feel closed sometimes, breathing in, opening back up. But none of it's permanent. We're constantly moving. Closing it back in. Dropping those hands to the knees. So we'll do a fire log pose kind of flow. That is one of my favorites. Really focusing in all of this and how we're seated, how we're rooted through our hips down through the floor, trying to really follow your breath here and feel present. One of the things right now with the way that we're thinking is it's whatever grabs our attention fast enough. So we really want to try to, tonight in particularly, really focus on that breath and feeling what it feels like to be present inside. So we twist ourselves into these awkward postures to teach ourselves how to breathe through these awkward situations. So with our first one here, we'll be in fire log pose. So this left leg, the shin will come parallel to the front of the mat. And then we're stacking the right leg right on top. So the goal here would be to try to work so that your knee is over top of an ankle, ankle over top of knee. If your knee does not come down, this is a great place to tuck a blanket underneath so that you can be comfortable. It can even feel really nice to prop your hips up, maybe that elevation, or if this does not work for you, cross-leg will give you the same thing. So we're just going for you feeling something in your body and you deciding what that feels like tonight. So in our fire log pose here, we will take our arms up overhead, breathing in, then bending forward on the exhale. We'll hold this forward fold. So your hands might come to your shin. Your hands might come to the floor. You might want to walk them out. You might be able to come to your forearms. You might fold even further. The beautiful thing is that nobody can see you. You can go exactly to that place that feels good for you. Closing the eyes, realizing that our distraction will go towards that stretch in that right hip. How can we use our breath to find that peace, to find that stability, to find that grounded feeling, and send that breath to that space that's feeling stretched? We'll be here for a couple of more breaths, trying to let go little by little. Sending that breath deep into that hip. When you're ready, we will slowly start to allow ourselves to come back upright to that neutral spine. Maybe wiggling it out a little bit, moving the center of the body, maybe moving that neck a little bit. We're gonna rock the baby with this leg that's on top, this right leg. So grabbing the bottom of the foot in the knee, just taking it for a little rock in the hip socket here. So your baby can be rocked here, or your baby can come and be rocked up higher. If the bind is available to you, you can give that shin a nice big hug, really taking it for just a little rock side to side in that hip space. Then we will take that right leg and flip it out so that the right knee comes to the bottom of the left foot. We're in this deer pose here. Again, this is a great place to use props. So most likely this right hip will not be on the ground. If it's lifted a little and you're fine with that, great. You could also take a blanket and sit on it to lift the hips up a little bit, taking a little bit of that pressure off of the hips. It's up to you. You've got blankets and pillows and whatever you can grab, or guess what? You can skip it at home and I won't even know. So you do what feels good for you. It's your rules tonight. So from this pose right here, we are going to take a fold. There are 3 different places that we can fold here in this position. So we can fold forward if that's what our body is asking for. We can fold over this left knee if that's what our body is asking for. Or we can take a real good twist over to that left side and then fold out to the side. So it really depends on what your body's asking for. Find stillness in this seat, closing the eyes, asking yourself which fold might feel the best for you. Inhale those arms up overhead. Exhale, taking that fold to whatever side, front, over the knee, or over the left side, whatever one is being called to you. Finding the fold, letting the chin tuck, closing the eyes, finding your breath. Continuing to come back to that place of feeling grounded, feeling rooted, and notice where your tailbone is as we fold here. where that space is that we started those beautiful breaths in the beginning of the practice. Maybe still tracing that ball of light all the way from the tip of the tailbone up the back and into that head space. Finding just 2 more breaths in this fold. When you're ready, pushing yourself back into this seated deer pose. We'll take our left hand here and plant it right behind our seat. This right arm will kind of swoop across the floor in front of you as you start to lift your hips. This right hand comes up behind. The hips can also stay on the floor. It's up to you. And then releasing, coming all the way back down. One more time. Sweeping those fingers across the floor, lifting the hips, reaching back, looking back towards that right hand, letting everything come back down to center. Releasing this deer pose by bringing the feet to the floor a little wider than hips width distance. We'll take an exaggerated windshield wiper here. So letting the knees fall over to the right. On the inhales, we will lift them up and over to the left. Holding on the exhale. Inhaling up and over to the right. Holding on the exhale. Inhaling up and over to the left. Holding on the exhale. Lifting the knees back through center. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So this time our left leg is on the bottom, so that left shin is flush with the front of your mat. This right leg comes on top. Again, we're looking to stack ankles and knees, but if that doesn't work, you can have a blanket under here, a pillow under here. You've got all the things at home to use. Go for it. No one can see you. Do what feels good. Inhaling here, the arms come up overhead. Pausing for just a second. Exhaling, folding forward. Letting the hands come to the floor, come to the shin, come down to the forearms. Letting that head fall, that chin tuck. Resting in this space. Releasing any stress and tension that you're holding in your hips. Getting quiet with yourself. Seeing if you can follow that breath and send it into that left hip. Focused and strong. Feeling it rooted into the ground. Two more breaths here. When you're ready, we'll rise slowly. Again, maybe finding a little movement here, that rib cage, maybe taking the neck side to side, tucking the chin, looking up towards the sky. We're gonna rock the baby with this left foot, so grabbing the bottom of the foot and the knee, just taking it side to side, taking that hip for just a little ride here, finding some movement in that socket, Pulling this leg up wherever is comfortable for you. If you'd like, you can go for the bind here. Grasping for those hands, trying to sit up nice and tall. And when you're ready, we will flip this left foot back, bringing the bottom of the right foot and the top of that left knee together so that we're in this deer pose again. You have the same 3 places that you can fold here: forward, over the knee, up to the side. Closing the eyes. Using those props if you need to. Listening to what the breath is telling you, listening to what the heart is telling you. Inhaling those arms up, following that heart where it leads you. Whatever stretch feels good to you. Maybe you'd like to find some movement and move from your knee forward, from your knee out to the side, or maybe you're finding stillness here. Whatever works for you. No matter where you're at, following that breath through the nose to the lungs, letting it go even further with your intention into that space in the hip. One more breath in this fold here. When you're ready, we'll slowly come to rise. Taking this right hand, planting it behind that right hip. The left hand swoops across in front of you, letting the hips come off the floor or stay to the ground. Either way, reaching that left hand up and over. Coming back down to seat. I like to do this twice because this pose makes me feel fierce, and so I feel like it should feel fierce in everyone. So try to feel fierce here. Sweeping those fingers across the floor, lifting the hips off the floor. Back, strong. Back down through center. Releasing here once more into this exaggerated windshield wiper. So taking those feet a little wider than the hips. Hands come to plant behind you, pushing that chest forward, the shoulders down. Inhales, we move. Exhales, we hold. Moving from side to side. Often when we move quickly through postures, it doesn't give us a lot of time to notice all of the parts that are interconnected and how they work together. So sometimes slowing down helps us to understand how our bodies work, maybe what it likes, what it doesn't like. Allows us to make different decisions as we start to pick up the pace. So we're going to go ahead and move here onto our hands and knees, however you'd like to get there. Whether you kind of go from side to side or go from cross legs and roll over your knees, it does not really matter. We want to find ourselves in a nice hands and knees here. So the knees are hips width distance apart, the shins are pushed into the floor, the fingers are spread wide, the hands are rooted in, and you're really pushing up through those shoulders. Finding here some gentle movement, some cats and cows. Starting first with the cow, letting the belly drop, letting the chin come up, that tailbone tips up towards the sky. When we move into this cat, our back arches, we tuck our chin, find some length across the back of the neck, tipping that tailbone under, pushing through those arms, finding space in the shoulders. Moving here with your own breath, back and forth. Maybe finding some additional movements here, possibly looking over one shoulder and the other. Maybe moving from a child into an up dog. It's really up to you. Or keep going with those cats and cows. I mentioned about how when we slow down, we can pay attention a little bit more to the things that are happening in our bodies, in our minds. It's not always a comfortable place to be, but it does give us better information about moving forward. The training that I went to yesterday, virtually, posed a really interesting question, and it was about how this experience that we're all having right now has allowed us to delete our calendars. And it's given us space to slow down enough so that we can pay attention, so that when we're ready to start moving again, we can make decisions about what we actually do want to add back to our life, what we want to change, maybe give us new appreciation. So just thinking about the correlation of when we slow our bodies and minds and pay attention to make choices for ourselves, that it's also going to help us in the future to make choices about what we want to return to in our lives when everything goes back to so-called normal. So from here, stopping with these cats and cows, we'll take this left hand next to the left hip so that the thumb is pointed down. I'm going to take these fingertips across the floor, up in front of us, lifting that arm up overhead, back to the hip. Taking a couple really large circles here. Moving into the shoulder and then taking them in the other direction. Next time you're all the way back up with the left arm up towards the ceiling, we're going to go ahead and thread the needle. So this left arm will come underneath through this keyhole in the right arm. The shoulder will come down to the mat. That right arm, right hand can plant near the head. That tailbone tipped up towards the sky. Finding your breath here. Maybe taking inventory of what kind of space you're holding for yourself right now. Is there anything that you can let go of? Is there anything that you can release? Often when we release something in our bodies in one space, the tension will pop up somewhere else. So I sometimes like to play a little game with following the tension to see if I can get a place of balance. When you're ready, we're going to bring that right arm next to under the shoulder, lifting that left arm up from underneath the keyhole there, up towards the sky and back towards the mat. Letting that tail wag just a couple times here. Same thing on the other side. So this right hand comes next to the right hip. Letting those fingers sweep forward, up towards the sky, around the back. Taking a couple of very big circles here. And a couple go the other direction. Next time that hand is all the way up towards the ceiling, we'll go ahead and thread the needle under that left arm. Here the shoulder comes down to the mat. That hand can come out overhead. It can stay right next to you. Or it can do something else very fancy if that's your take. Closing the eyes. Feeling that breath. I don't know about you, but I have found myself, as I'm reading about the things that are happening with the illness that's going on, I'll find myself in my yoga breath as I'm reading an article, where I'll take these deep, exaggerated breaths out of nowhere. And at first I thought it was, my reaction was to test myself to see if I still had my breath. But then I realized that some of the things I was reading were just stressing me to the point that my natural reaction was to start in with that yogic breath. So the longer we practice in these positions where we're kind of folded and awkward and training our brains to breathe deep, even when our body is sort of twisted up in a way that isn't necessarily the most natural of position, like lying on your shoulder. We start to train that breath to go there when we feel that stress come on. I'm going to go ahead and lift out of this, so bringing that hand back towards your shoulder, lifting strong through that arm, letting the hand come up towards the ceiling, back down to the mat. Taking a little rock side to side here. And then coming into a child, so letting those toes come together, the knees come wide, pushing yourself back onto those heels, letting your chest fall towards the floor, letting the forehead come towards the floor. If the forehead doesn't come towards the floor, you can try stacking fists. You can put a couple blankets underneath your chest here. Whatever makes it comfortable for you to stay here and find some stillness. I didn't intend for this class tonight to be without music. I think that my speaker died on me. And at first I thought the magic would be gone because that extra thing, that extra distraction that was there wouldn't be there. But I'm starting to think that maybe the real intention for this class was to find some quiet and stillness tonight. Taking just a couple more breaths here in this child. We're going to go ahead here and come down to our belly. So, pushing forward through child, coming down to the belly. Letting the one cheek or the other rest towards the ground. Turning those palms up next to your side so that the shoulders can come forward, creating a little bit of space in between the shoulder blades. Seeing if you can feel your heartbeat here on the floor. Seeing if you can find some space to breathe through the back side of the body here. letting yourself be calm, comforted. We're going to take the arms and bring them into these goalpost arms. We're going to take this left knee and start to inch its way up the floor, working to bring that left knee towards the left elbow. So we're in this space, it's a half frog, aka how I sleep. This might feel good if you've got one of those pillows handy. It can also feel really nice if you'd like to feel a little more stretch in the hip, to start to elevate that knee just a little bit with a pillow or with a block, allowing just a little bit more space for that hip to open. Breathing here. Following that breath all the way in through the lungs and then through your intention into that space in the hips. When you're ready, we'll release this hold here, bringing that leg back down so that the left comes to meet the right. We'll take this right hand and sort of place it underneath our cheek, turning our cheek over to that left side, bending that left foot towards the bottom, either taking that as your stretch or possibly taking this left hand, reaching for that left foot, giving it a nice little pull towards the bottom, stretching out that quad. I like to find a little movement here, letting that foot rock side to side. It gives this little massage in that shoulder joint, and also moves into different space across the top of that left leg. Releasing that foot, releasing that hand, turning that cheek over to the left side. Doing the same thing on this left side. Taking just a moment to find your breath. Taking those arms into the goalpost arms. Starting to work that right knee up towards the right elbow. Again here, working with the floor or possibly putting a blanket or a pillow underneath the knee. Finding your breath. Seeing if maybe that knee can move up just a little ooch more. Two more breaths in this space. When you're ready, releasing that right leg. Letting it come long next to the left. Taking this left hand under the left cheek, resting the side of the head here, bending that right foot up towards the bottom. Deciding if that's enough stretch for you or if you'd like to take that right hand, grab for that right foot. Pulling it towards the bottom here, finding stillness. Or possibly taking it for a little wiggle side to side, nice and slow. It almost feels like a massage across the top of that leg as we move or find find stillness. From here, we'll go ahead and let that leg drop. Bringing those arms back down to the sides, so that you're lying on your belly. One more time, breathing, feeling your heartbeat on the floor. When you're ready, we're going to go ahead and just roll right over onto our backs. Towards the end of this practice here, finding some stillness for just a moment. And then bringing those knees into the chest one more time. Finding a rock side to side. Going ahead and letting those arms come out into T. Letting those knees fall over to that left side. Finding stillness here or finding movement. If you'd like to find movement, that right hand can come up and over like you're drawing a rainbow over your body so that the palms can come to touch on the left. Taking those right fingertips up that left arm, across the collarbones, opening back up into T. Inhale, so we come up and over. Exhales, we sweep across the arm, across the collarbone. One more with your own breath. I need a couple more breaths here, just in stillness. And then taking those knees through center, over towards the right side, finding the twist to the opposite direction. Again, finding stillness here, or bringing that left arm up and over on your inhale. Tracing a line up that right hand, across the collarbones and opening it up. Exhale. Moving with your breath on the inhale. And the exhale. One more time. And then finding stillness for just a breath or two. When you're ready, those knees will come through center. I'll give you a couple of options for Shavasana. Either finding yourself lying flat on the mat with your legs outstretched, or possibly using the blanket under your head, pillows under your knees, or if you'd like a little bit of a heart opener, you can take your blanket, roll it up into a nice little log, putting that right underneath your shoulder blades so that your heart opens, the arms can open out in T to the side, letting that chin fall back. Just finding a little bit more space here in the heart, that area. And also, if you take this option too, feeling how the tailbone really roots into the earth here. So when you're ready, in whatever position or place you've decided to go with or without props, closing the eyes, I'll invite you to take a little, slightly more active, if you will, version of Shavasana, counting the breaths, or giving yourself a mantra. Maybe I breathe in peace, I breathe out stress, I breathe in peace, I breathe out confusion. Continuing to breathe in peace and breathe out those things that are not serving you right now. Melting in, giving yourself this well-deserved time to rest. Even though it's quiet, I promise I'll be here to wake you in a couple of minutes. When you're ready, we'll begin to wake ourselves, but before moving, feeling what it feels like to be 100% in your body in this moment. Right now. Beginning to wiggle your fingers and toes and rolling ankles and wrists. Depending on what props you're using, you may or may not be able to bring your knees to your chest for just a moment. Either way, we'll find ourselves rolling to our side into a fetal pose, the knees tucked in, using our arm as a headrest. In this space where we get to reset, hit that restart button. Our personal Control-Alt-Delete. Letting go of whatever it is we started with. Allowing for a rebirth in thought, a rebirth in circumstance, a new outlook. When you're ready, using that top arm to push yourself up to a comfortable seat. Finding our hands at heart center, tucking our chins, beginning to rub those hands together, gathering the energy that we've created tonight, getting some friction, closing the eyes, without thinking, allowing those hands to fall on your body, someplace that needs a little extra love. Knowing that we have all the tools, all the skills that we need to heal. Bringing those hands back through heart center, tucking the chin. Thank you for showing up tonight to spend time with me, but more importantly, to spend time with yourself. To give yourself an hour to refuel, reset, recharge. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace in body, peace in speech, and peace in mind. Namaste. Thank you all for practicing with me tonight. I know there's quite a few people that hopped on, hopped off. Maybe that stuck with us. Maybe that will come back to visit later. If anybody wants to drop any comments, I noticed that in the beginning there were a couple people with some pretty stressful jobs right now. So if there's anyone in our community here that just needs a little extra thoughts, a little extra love, let us know. Drop a line in the comments so that we can kind of have our thoughts out there for you and with you. Maybe you're not serving on the front lines of what's going on right now, but maybe you're serving on the front lines of whatever your experience is, and you also just need a little cheerleader. We're happy to do that as a community here. So thank you. I will be back on Sunday night with another candlelight yoga. Thank you. Good night. Oh, I'm so happy to see that, Kelly. Oh, and the Groves were able to get back. Awesome. All right. Love you guys. Good night.